Good morning. We welcome the 216th commencement exercises of Bowdoin College with an invocation offered by the Reverend Eduardo Pathos Palma.
Please join me in a moment of reflection. Class of 2021, against all odds, changes, and unexpected turns, you made it to this very special day. You're here today with your family and loved ones, those joining us in spirit, and those who could be here physically with us in such a special day. As you get ready to depart your Bowdoin home for the last time, may you go forth full of pride and joy for all you have accomplished in the last 4 years. May you go forth into far lands and near places. May you go knowing that your family and friends are cheering you on at every stop along the way. May you go knowing that no matter where you go, you are home, you are loved, and you are enough. Go work to end systemic oppressions all over the world. Go work to bring about peace all over our country. Go make a difference in minute ways and through history-making ways. Go search for and serve the common good wherever you might find it. Continue to look for all the ways in which we share in our humanity and our experiences, and make every attempt to fight for justice, peace, and unity so we might be closer to becoming that beloved community we have been searching for. May you go forth with hearts full of compassion and tenderness towards yourself, your neighbors, and the land you walk on. Go knowing that all beings are interconnected and that our commitment towards all is a commitment to ourselves and our thriving in this interdependent ecosystem. Go knowing that grace is all around you. It's in the yearly harvest. It's in the seasonal rains. It's in the singing of your favorite songs and the tender eyes of your most cherished friends. May you find grace and compassion in your new jobs that you will soon start and the new academic programs you're about to begin. When you leave this place and say your final goodbyes, go forth without fear. Go forth full of tenacity and courage. Go forth full of all the wisdom and resilience you have built over the last 4 years. And know that you take with you all the lessons and perseverance given to you by your community. Know that your mother's and grandmother's prayers and songs will accompany you at every step of the way. Go without fear, knowing that you have your Bowdoin friends and community standing right behind you, no matter where you go. Class of 2021, may you go forth with hearts flowing with love, joy, and gratitude every day of your life. May it be so.
Because of the continued caution against singing together, the Star-Spangled Banner will be conducted through a recording this year instead of by student performers.
Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you all. Good morning and welcome to this beautiful day in Brunswick, Maine. It is a beautiful day because it's the 216th commencement of Bowdoin College. I'm Bob White, member of the class of 1977, chair of the Bowdoin College trustees, and parent of a Bowdoin alumna class of 2015. This morning we gather to honor the members of the class of 2021. Congratulations, class of 2021. You will soon be graduates of one of the most distinguished colleges in the country and the oldest in Maine. In fact, our college is older than the state itself, with an identity and history inexorably linked to this beautiful and extraordinary place. Walking this campus for 4 years, living as a member of the Brunswick community and among the fine people of the Mid-Coast region are important and memorable parts of the Bowdoin experience. So it's customary at commencement for the college to invite a representative of the state to bring greetings to our seniors. This morning, we have the privilege of hearing from Governor of the state of Maine, Janet T. Mills. Governor Mills was elected in 2018 following her long career in public service to the state. She was the Maine's first female criminal prosecutor and was Assistant Attorney General in the late 1970s. In 1980, she was elected District Attorney for Androscoggin, Franklin, Oxford counties, making her the first woman to be elected DA in New England. It was a position to which she was reelected 3 times. Governor Mills served in the state legislature from 2002 to 2008, when she was elected Attorney General, a position she held until January 2019, when she became Maine's first female governor. She's from a family of committed public service. Her father, Sumner Peter Mills Jr., served as U.S. Attorney for Maine. Her brother, Peter Mills III, is a former state senator and gubernatorial candidate. Her sister-in-law, Nancy Mills, is a Cumberland County Superior Court judge. And her sister, Dr. Dora Ann Mills, is the state's former public health director and a proud member of the Bowdoin College class of 1982. Governor Mills could not be here with us today in person, but she's recorded greetings from the state of Maine. Thank you.
Greetings, members of the Bowdoin class of 2021 from the state of Maine. I greet you now as governor, not from the dais where dignitaries have delivered the greeting from the state of Maine to graduates for generations, but from the state capitol, the place where Brigadier General and member of the Bowdoin class of 1852, Joshua Chamberlain, served as governor after returning from the Civil War and before he went on to teach and become president of Bowdoin College. It is the same Capitol building where, a few decades earlier, Robert Pinckney Dunlap of Brunswick, member of Bowdoin's class of 1815, also served 4 terms as governor soon after Maine became a state. Dunlap vigorously defended Maine as a free state, refusing to return a fugitive slave to captivity and defying federal law by saying very bluntly, "We in Maine do not consider people to be property." Those 2 governors served their state during some very trying times. They demonstrated the courage, leadership, and resiliency that has become the mark of Maine people. Today, I am proud of how so many Maine people, including all of you, have met the challenges of another very trying time, a worldwide pandemic. Bowdoin College has demonstrated resiliency and leadership as well, adapting to protect students and staff from a deadly virus while focusing on knowledge and connectivity during an extraordinarily difficult year. Thank you. All of you have made this place, this special place, your home, virtually and physically, for your college years. Our little state, jutting out of the northeast corner of the country with its forests and hills and tablelands, its fields and shores and mighty rivers, our state has welcomed you in turn. And as you made this place your home, Bowdoin College instilled in you an inquiring mind, created lifelong friendships, and has given you new appreciation for everything that is around you and, I hope, everything ahead of you. In the process, whether you know it or not, in the time that you are here, whether you were one before or not, you've become a Mainer. Today you graduate from this precious place, ready to explore other worlds, work, careers, places, and people. Some of you may continue your education elsewhere, while others pursue job prospects in other states. And you will enjoy and learn from those experiences here and everywhere. But if you leave, you will miss us, and we will miss you too, guaranteed. If you go, wherever you go, whatever you do, whoever you go there with, I hope you'll remember your time here fondly. The friendships fulfilling, carrying the history of this place in your heart. I hope you'll tell people the wonderful place that this state is. Tell them about the rocky coast, the rolling hills, the beaches, fields, and forests, all that there is to see, enjoy, and explore here in Maine. And when they ask you about the winter and the cold, just tell them that's what makes us hardy. It builds character. Most importantly, tell them about the people, the friendships, the families, the future, the people who make up the communities that are waiting for them here in this state. I think it was T.S. Eliot who said, quote, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." As we send you off to explore today, please know, wherever you roam, upon your return as upon your first arrival, and even if you never leave, you will discover this place again, and you will always be in our memory, and we in yours. Whenever you return, if ever you leave, we will greet you with a hearty hug and a heartfelt welcome home. Congratulations on achieving this milestone in a year unlike any other. Thank you for being here, and best of luck in all of your future endeavors. From the state of Maine, greetings.
Thank you, Governor Mills. Thank you, Bob. Good morning, class of 2021. You did it. I want to welcome our honorands who are beaming in virtually, our trustees. Welcome to our family, friends, the alumni who are also beaming in. But welcome especially to our families and friends who are here in person and also virtually from around the country and around the world, all here to celebrate what is a joyous occasion. Now, in what I am sure will make the short list of all-time understatements, this year has been historic. This is our 216th commencement. Very few institutions have been as durable as Bowdoin, a place where we embrace both change and a steadfast commitment to core values, essential elements in providing a great liberal arts education. And through thick and thin, wars, social upheaval, pandemics, financial and economic calamity, Bowdoin perseveres, changes, and thrives. And while today we celebrate, as we absolutely should, we must also remember that so many have died in this past year and a half. The nearly 600,000 deaths in the United States from the pandemic exceed the total U.S. deaths from World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined, and is approaching the 655,000 who died in the American Civil War. Globally, 3.5 million people have perished, and that number still climbs. We also need to remember those men and women of color, Black, brown, indigenous, Asian, who have died by or suffered from racial violence. I want to thank our 4 honorary degree recipients, Dr. Anthony Fauci, William Harbour, DeRay McKesson, and Dr. Jessica Meir, for their amazing work and true service to the common good. We are delighted that each is joining the Bowdoin community today. As you know, we're presenting Mr. Harbour's degree posthumously. He passed away last August as our letter was on its way to him. We mourn his passing, but we could not be more delighted that his widow Doris, son Marcus, and other members of the Harbour family are with us today to accept his degree on his behalf. Now, as we begin to move past this past year and a half, I have for our students 3 thoughts for your consideration. The first, every year from this podium, I share with our graduates one of the important things that I've learned in my life, that genuine happiness is never found in material success. Rather, it's found in large measure in the bonds of family and friends. Happiness is about your heart, finding and nurturing those special relationships that make you whole, finding that person who will love you completely and without question, and you them. Should you have kids, loving them completely and making the time for them, growing the friendships that draw out the best in you and in them. And if we have learned anything from this past year, it is how important this is, how essential it is to each of us. Second, this moment, the pandemic, confronting the realities of race and racism, the profound political and social divisions, they affirm more strongly than ever the importance and value of higher education and of a liberal arts education, and what it is we do at colleges and universities around this country and around the world. As Dr. Fauci pointed out in his fireside chat about 10 days ago, the overnight success of the COVID-19 vaccines was actually decades long in the making, the result of basic scientific research in laboratories across the country and across the world, and then in research to translate that work into medicines, and at the moment of greatest need, pushing the effort across the line. Success in developing safe and effective vaccines came from many, many efforts over many, many years. For example, it depended on the work to understand better the nature of RNA that earned 2018 Bowdoin honorary degree recipient Dr. Thomas Cech the Nobel Prize in 1989. Dr. Fauci's own work on AIDS and HIV that began well over 30 years ago provided critical insights and tools for this fight. And these are just 2 of the examples of all that was done and all that was required over so many years at so many colleges and universities and research institutes to create this overnight success. The essential power of a liberal arts education, critical thinking, analysis, the ability to reason, to learn, to collaborate, to communicate, they will be central to successfully navigating your way through the morass of social, political, cultural, ethical, and scientific issues that confront the world you will live in and lead in. It will put us back on the moon and take us beyond, and will help us to create the conditions for racial equity, for naming and ending racism, and for creating a shared sense of belonging. Now, students, I'd like to ask you now to stand and turn to the faculty and the staff who have made this Bowdoin education possible and who have prepared you to confront the challenges and to lead, and to thank them with your applause. If you'd remain standing, please give your parents, your family, your friends, those who've loved you and supported you through this journey. And finally, thank one another. You are each an essential part of the Bowdoin education and experience, and you have made it possible for us to come through this together. Give yourself a round of applause. You can sit. Thank you. And lastly, 4 years ago, I stood right about here, and you sat right about there. It was a beautiful August evening, and we all came together for the first time. The disruption to your lives over the past 15 months has been awful. And to have your college experience, and your senior year in particular, upended is simply not fair. But this dreadful hand is the hand that you have been dealt. And with that in mind, I want to leave you with a couple of questions that I hope in the months and the years ahead that you will consider. How will you use this experience to better own your own future? How will you build on the experience in ways that will make you better and that will allow you to make an even greater difference in the world? What will you do to help tackle big problems, to bring people together, to call out injustice, and to push the boundaries of what we know and who we are? Sorry. Our 4 honorary degree recipients, Dr. Fauci, Mr. Harbour, Mr. McKesson, Dr. Mir, provide amazing examples of individuals who own it to their core, in their commitment, in their character, in their perseverance through the most difficult moments, their creativity, their courage, their selflessness. And I see this in each one of you. I know that you can change the world. Take the experiences, the heartbreak, the growth of the last year. Learn from it. Let it strengthen your resolve and your self-confidence, and go out and make the change that is necessary. Class of 2021, my congratulations on your remarkable accomplishments in a historic moment, and thank you for what's to come. It is my great pleasure now to introduce this morning's student speakers. Our first student speaker is Sharisha Karup, winner of the Dalva Stanwood Alexander First Prize. A history and art history double major. Sharisha came to Bowdoin from Santa Clara, California, not far from where I grew up. And then she took off for parts even farther east when she went to study abroad in Amsterdam, where she learned about Rembrandt, and in a departure from her own work in oil painting, began to study stone carving. An independent study project and the pandemic brought her to Portland during the fall semester, where she lived and learned about the disappearance of Maine's skilled artisans in the 1800s. Just prior to the pandemic, Sharisha was in a class called History of the Present, in which they discussed whether the West was in crisis. And a week later, we were in crisis. And her class continued that conversation throughout the semester over Zoom. She says that studying the present through the context of history during an enormous historical moment will be one of her most lasting Bowdoin memories. On a more personal level, Sharisha says that living in Reed House, where she found herself in a strong community within a community, connected her to new friends and alumni in meaningful and lasting ways that she had not expected. Her talk today, Imagined Communities, borrows its name from a book that may be familiar to many of our students from courses that you have taken here. Please join me in welcoming Sarisha Karup.
President Rose, members of the college, guests. During my freshman fall in Professor Mohandasi's class about post-war Europe, we were introduced to the term imagined community. Historian Benedict Anderson coined the phrase to elucidate the rise of nationalism, explaining that nations are nothing more, really, than imagined communities. The members of even the smallest nation, he writes, will never know most of their fellow members, meet them, or even hear of them, yet in the minds of each lives the image of their communion. As I sat in that class looking around the room at all of my classmates I didn't know, whose lives up until that point might have been utterly different from mine, I remember thinking, what a powerful thing to feel bound in some way to people entirely different from you, whom you may never know or touch. When Bowdoin let out suddenly last spring, I spent a few months in the subdued Brunswick that most of you had to leave behind. Some nights I'd bike aimlessly through campus, and it was strange and still and quiet, a tangible absence that kicks off a kind of animal instinct in you, a sinking but not entirely explicable knowledge that something is off, not right. It was hard to believe that this little place had been my whole world, as it was many of yours. We breathed, ate, and slept here, did a good bit of growing up here, learned and invented and failed and learned to start again. It's almost hard to believe, really, if you haven't experienced it, how much these 215 acres can contain. World-shifting academic discoveries, triumphs of music and art, life-altering friendships, 4 years of vivid memories layered and echoing through every hallway or dorm room or dining hall. And yet, in the last snows of last April, there were no footprints cutting through these quad pathways. Soon we will be scattered around the globe again, and these 4 years in which we all briefly converged will start to look like a rare and happy accident. But if remote schooling this past year has taught me anything, it's that Bowdoin, although not a nation, does resemble a kind of imagined community, anchored in our collective minds, powerfully unshakable because we, students, professors, parents, alumni, everyone, believe in the image of our communion. This collection of buildings is only Bowdoin because we believe it is, and if it exists, then so too does our very real, lasting connection with each other. And though in 10, 20, 30 years we may be able to understand a little of most of each other's lives, we will all know the precise feeling of walking across the quad on a crisp fall morning towards Thorn, or the distinct coziness of being buried on an empty floor in the stacks, or the way the land suddenly becomes so vast in the last stretch of the drive to Simpson's Point. And soon we will probably all know what it's like to deeply miss a place like this one, to accumulate a small list of things you'd wish you'd done, to wonder when you can find your way back to Maine again, where the clouds and the color of the water and the taste of the air are just different somehow. When I lived in Reed House my sophomore year, we were once paid a visit by some Bowdoin alumni who had lived there back when it was their fraternity. They were all white-haired men, ages I can't imagine myself even being, but we were as thrilled to meet them as they were to meet us. We'd slept in the same house for 1 year, generations apart, and we probably had little else in common. But to love the same place, the same community, the same walls, it turns out is a kind of incredible power. It's a connection across time and space and history, a connection I feel every time I happen upon a old Bowdoin yearbook or see someone in New York or Amsterdam or Portland with a Bowdoin hat or phone case or sweater. I know nothing about you, but we know some shade of the same kind of love. If this year has taught me anything, it's that community can be everything, that it is important to hold the people you feel bound to close, that can make all the difference in weathering the unpredictable tides of history. And it has taught me to be unequivocally grateful for the powerful imagined community that I found here, which is ours to shape even in the coming years. We learned at Bowdoin that connection to place is important, but I've realized so is being connected by place, by choosing to make this stretch of community home for 4 years. I've learned here that place can bind you together long after you've left it. Thank you.
Bravo, that was fantastic. I'm now pleased to introduce David Joe, today's second commencement speaker and winner of the class of 1868 prize. David is a physics major from Palmetto Beach, Florida, and since his arrival at Bowdoin has taken a deep dive, headfirst, into the experience of being a physics scholar. As leader of Bowdoin's Society of Physics Students, David helped to shape the culture in the department. He put together social events, shared silly physics memes on social media every week, biked around campus distributing snacks for remote physics snack nights, and organized information panels for prospective physics majors. For his honors project, David looked at gravitational wave production in the early universe, something that tested his quantitative capabilities, his perseverance, and his communication skills. But most of all, he has said, it forced him to learn how to explore problems when there was no clear and obvious answer. David says that among his most memorable Bowdoin experiences are the many late nights spent on the third floor of Cyril's, putting chalk to chalkboards alongside fellow classmates, working and learning together. David found that many of the intellectual qualities he developed at Bowdoin equipped him well for his internship last year with Credit Suisse's Global Markets Division. He says there he was constantly expected to learn new things, communicate complicated ideas, and solve problems with little guidance. After graduation, he will return to Credit Suisse to work in their equity derivatives group. This morning, David is here to deliver a love letter to the impractical. Please join me in welcoming David Joe.
President Rose, members of the college, and guests, thank you for giving me the chance to speak this morning. Today, I wanted to share my personal love letter to learning. I've spent roughly 2 years here at Bowdoin researching gravitational waves, or small ripples in space-time from the early universe. These are signals from billions of years ago at frequencies too high for current detectors to see, and at length scales too small to matter. And in my pursuit to learn more about these seemingly inconsequential gravitational waves, I have spent my waking hours hunched over, squinting at some graphs on my computer, while furiously scribbling down some math that, more often than not, ended up being wrong anyway. Given all this, people might ask why? What are you going to do with this information? And in fairness, knowing more about billions of years old squiggly lines isn't going to solve climate change or end world hunger. But while it's not solving any of those problems, this pursuit of knowledge is still valuable for me. Sure, I picked up some hard skills. I've become comfortable with getting Python and text files to work together and convert a string of silly numbers into beautiful plots of gravitational waves. But that's not surprising to anyone. What may surprise you is that what may surprise you is that embarking on this project has transformed me from a timid and awkward human being to a more confident, decisive, and awkward human being. When I get stuck on a problem and don't know how to proceed, I've learned to just try something. For example, meeting new people here was hard for me. I was scared that some of you would think I was a weirdo. Scared that you might look at me and wonder, what's he doing with his head? I was scared that maybe one of you would become my mortal enemy. But I learned to just try something. Maybe ask for a meal at Thorn, try saying hi, or do that head nod thing. And so far, I haven't met any mortal enemies, just friends among you all. So in a surprising way, studying gravitational waves has emboldened me and improved my social experience with you all here at Bowdoin. It's reminded me that my curiosity is worthwhile. It's made me a better decision maker and risk taker. And all of those pieces of self-improvement have immense value wherever I end up after Bowdoin. Another reason I loved studying gravitational waves is because it was a more open-ended pursuit. So many goals we grew up with can feel so narrow. Study for this exam so you can do well in school, do well in school so you can get into a good college, get into a good college so you can get a good career so you can earn a good living, and so on and so forth. What a gift to just explore gravitational waves from the early universe. And even though gravitational waves have nothing to do with my immediate life after Bowdoin, the chance to study something I loved, simply because it was fascinating, has given me all the skills I need to succeed. Studying what I loved has given me a sense of my own value as a malleable thinker, more confident decision maker, and risk taker. Many of you also studied something you loved. Maybe you spent your time here zapping lobster hearts, or sculpting cardboard shoes, or proving that the number 1 is, in fact, greater than 0. Maybe you studied a foreign language or learned to dance over Zoom. Whatever it was, you studied something you loved, and because of that love, you were more motivated, you worked harder, thought more carefully, and were more fully engaged with your learning. And in doing so, you stretched and grew your abilities to greater heights. In my 4 years here, I have learned that there is real value to be had from studying what you choose, what you love. And through that choice, choose who you are and who you want to become. Today, we finally bid Bowdoin farewell. But while we're all still here, let's take the time to celebrate the gift of pursuing something that excited us. Let's celebrate a pursuit that inspired us to connect with mentors, build communities, and become better versions of ourselves. Let's take the time to look back with pride and acknowledge that learning something we loved has prepared us to thrive long after we've left campus. Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you, David. Fantastic. Our third and final speaker this morning, winner of this year's Goodwin Commencement Prize, is Ruby Ahiwe. We have some fans in the audience here, Ruby. Ruby majored in biochemistry, minored in Francophone studies. She completed a chemistry honors project identifying and characterizing antimicrobial peptides in lobsters. After being accepted into some of the top public health programs in this country, she has chosen to enroll this fall at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health in its Population, Family, and Reproductive Health program. Ruby grew up in Abuja, Nigeria, and is committed to returning home to improve people's health outcomes there. Last summer, Ruby received a Bowdoin grant to intern with rural hospitals in Nigeria. Noticing that many local people were unaware of the hospital's resources, she became inspired to design a new project for this summer to increase public engagement with the hospital, and has been awarded a Davis Projects for Peace Prize to carry out her plan. Her long-term goal is to expand health education across Nigeria and to reduce the health disparities between rural and urban communities. Ruby says that the Bowdoin Public Health Club, which she has led since her sophomore year, has strengthened her resolve to pursue this field as a career. She's also served on the boards of the International Students Association and Africa Alliance, and she's helped to, which she says has helped to find for her a community and allies which have been critical to her. Ruby's address is titled, "Your Eyes Have Seen Me," inspired, she says, by all of the people who make Bowdoin such a warm place. Please welcome Ruby Ahiwe.
President Rose, members of the college, and guests, thank you for giving me the privilege to speak today. Let me share a little story with you. On a sunny Friday evening in August 2017, as I prepared to leave Nigeria for Bowdoin, my dad called me to his room for one last conversation. He said to me, "My dear daughter, I have no doubts that you will do well at school, but remember you're a woman. No matter what books you read, if you see a man you like, bring him home and get married." Like me, many of you have faced expectations from family, friends, and even ourselves. You may have changed and pursued a dance major rather than government. You may have forgotten to call your family because you were in the library. You may even have never received an award here. But altogether, the stories and achievements of our fellow Bowdoin classmates and our professors constantly show us that it is okay to defy norms, to tread our own path. Well, Dad, I did not meet a spouse. But I did meet my hero, Nigeria's most famous author, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who was to receive an honorary degree in my first year. I reached out, and amazingly, President Rose invited me to have dinner with her. We chatted and laughed all evening in Brunswick, Maine. Spending time with this Nigerian writer at Bowdoin was something that I never could have imagined. And I never could have imagined meeting any of you back when I was at home. Lisa from the BCLT, Meg from the CXD office, my wonderful advisors, Beth, Catherine, and Danielle, my host parents, Karen and Nils, and many of you seated here today. But you have made me feel seen. You have made me feel loved. As I reflect on my college experiences, the word that stands out to me each time is love. Love in my Igbo language is ahurum genanya, which literally translates as I see you in the eyes. This word captures the infinity of love and the empathy we get with seeing each other and seeing the world around us in the eyes. It also reminds me of the South African Ubuntu philosophy, Umuntu Ngumuntu Ngabantu, meaning that a person is who they are because of other people. When I was signing my name in the matriculation book at President Rose's office, I felt as if I were being seen in the eyes, that Bowdoin truly knew our names and recognized us individually. Yet, we signed the book together as a group, showing we all need each other. I feel a deep gratitude for everyone who has been on this journey with me: classmates, faculty, staff, host parents, alums, and friends who see me in the eyes. For each and every one of us, we are seen. We are enough. When my dad called me in March to say he had already bought a goat to celebrate my graduation rather than my wedding, I was happy that he was as excited as I to celebrate my success. And so, Dad, while you're not here with us today, I do hope you someday meet the people so central to my Bowdoin experience. And while I'm not coming home with a ring on my finger or a husband in tow, I bring with me years of love, stories, experiences, ideas, and an invaluable liberal arts education. Today, I invite you all to keep love deeply rooted in your hearts, to pause, to listen, and to truly see others in your eyes. As we leave Brunswick, I encourage you to use your education and opportunities to see others, to build communities, and to leave the world better than you met it. Aharam Genanya. Not everyone will be lucky enough to get a goat today. But class of 2021, we are the GOAT, G-O-A-T, greatest of all time. Thank you and congratulations.
I think one more hand of applause for our three student speakers. Remarkable. It is now my honor to introduce Catherine McGinnis, flautist from the class of 2021, who will perform today's musical interlude, Borge Anglaise by Johann Sebastian Bach. Thank you, Catherine. That was beautiful. And at 45 degrees with the wind blowing and a little damp, super awesome. So thank you.
Mr. President, the President and the Board of Trustees have voted for honorary degrees to be awarded in accordance with the authority vested in you by the Board. As Chair of the Board of Trustees, I have the honor to present for the degree of Doctor of Science, Anthony S. Fauci.
Dr. Anthony Stephen Fauci, you have served as the head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases since 1984 and have dealt with viral epidemics on behalf of our nation many times before COVID-19, from bird flu to Zika, and especially HIV/AIDS. In what you have called the darkest time of my life, when you were saving no one with that disease, you created a division in your institute to focus on HIV/AIDS and became as much a public health activist as physician and scientist. You made fundamental discoveries about HIV. You changed the way AIDS was treated in public health. And you were an architect of the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, which has saved 20 million lives and prevented millions of HIV infections. In 2008, you received the Presidential Medal of Freedom for leading the fight against this terrible plague. You are one of the best-known public health experts in our country, but it was your role on the coronavirus task force in the Trump administration that made you a household name with today's American public and with our students. Taken from what you have termed your favorite book of philosophy, The Godfather, your mantra of "it's nothing personal, it's strictly business," served you well in the face of contradictions and confusion as you grappled with a pandemic of historic proportions caused by a disease about which almost nothing was known. As a writer for Scientific American put it, you were not just trustworthy, but actually trusted. But not everyone has seen you that way in this divided country, and you have received personal threats and threats to your family in the course of your work, as you put it, to get the facts out about COVID-19. Born on Christmas Eve in 1940, a proud Brooklyn native who grew up loving sports and delivering prescriptions from your father's pharmacy on your bike, you led and inspired your high school basketball team. And last year, the Wall Street Journal called you America's point guard. You earned your undergraduate degree in classics at Holy Cross and graduated first in your class at Cornell University Medical College, a dedicated scientist who is also an enthusiastic champion of the liberal arts. With your expertise and devotion, you have served not just your patients, not just every United States president since Ronald Reagan, but an entire country who needed you. President Rose, on behalf of the college, I am honored to present Dr. Anthony S. Fauci for the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
Thank you, Professor McBride. Anthony S. Fauci, by virtue of the authority vested in me by our Board of Trustees, I now confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa.
As chair of the Bowdoin Board of Trustees, I have the honor to present for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, awarded posthumously, William E. Harbour.
In 1961, William Harbour was 19 years old, from Piedmont, Alabama, and determined to be the first person in his family to attend college. He enrolled at Tennessee State University. Immediately, he joined efforts to end racial segregation. That May, the Congress of Racial Equality planned to racially integrate interstate travel. Harbor and a dozen others volunteered to ride from Washington, D.C. through the Deep South to New Orleans, Louisiana. Harbor and the first group of Freedom Riders faced terrorists in Alabama. In Anniston, white supremacists blocked the doors and firebombed the bus with the Freedom Riders on board. In Birmingham, hundreds surrounded the bus and beat the Freedom Riders bloody. Local police looked the other way and sometimes joined the terrorists. State law enforcement, led by the governor, provided no protection, called the Freedom Riders agitators, and blamed them for causing the violence. In Montgomery, police arrested Harbor and the other Freedom Riders, removed them from the jail in the middle of the night, drove them to the state line, and abandoned them. But like a tree standing by the waterside, they would not be moved. William Harbor and the Freedom Riders boarded another bus. They were determined to reach New Orleans and prove that Black citizens could enjoy equal protection of the law in the United States. In Jackson, Mississippi, they were arrested, tried, and sentenced to over 30 days of hard time in the state penitentiary. The Freedom Rides continued. Over 400 people participated. Over 300 were incarcerated in the Mississippi State Penitentiary. They suffered beatings, torture, job loss, social ostracism, and expulsion from schools. 6 months after William Harbor started the Freedom Rides, the federal government ended racially segregated interstate travel. William Harbor's courage and sacrifice made the United States a nation where equal protection under the law had meaning. For decades, Harbor worked as a public servant. He became a steward of the Freedom Riders' history. He received an honorary degree from the university that had expelled him. He died in August 2020. President Rose, on behalf of the college, it is my honor to present posthumously William Harbor, a soldier from the nation's nonviolent Army for Freedom and Citizenship, for the degree of honoris causa.
Thank you, Professor Purnell. Mrs. Harbor, it is with gratitude and in fond memory, by virtue of the authority vested in me by our Board of Trustees, that I now confer upon your late husband, William E. Harbor, the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
As chair of the Board of Trustees, I have the honor to present for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, DeRay McKesson.
DeRay McKesson, civil rights activist, community organizer, political commentator, educator, author, and erstwhile student of political philosophy. We honor you today for your courageous and tireless advocacy of racial justice, your dynamic participation and leadership in the Black Lives Matter movement, and your continuing work to dismantle systemic racism and bring an end to police violence and mass incarceration. Born and raised in Baltimore, you came to Bowdoin in the fall of 2003. Very quickly, you exhibited your considerable political skills, becoming the president of the student government, as well as of your class. You majored in government and legal studies and you concentrated in political theory. In your senior year, you wrote an ambitious honors project on two thinkers indispensable to any aspiring activist, Plato and Friedrich Nietzsche. After graduating from Bowdoin in 2007, you went to New York City to teach middle school under the auspices of Teach for America. From there, you went on to work for the Baltimore and Minneapolis public school systems. You've always taken education very seriously, and though you are no longer in the classroom, you remain at heart an educator. In August of 2014, your life changed when you drove to Ferguson, Missouri, to join the protests against the shooting of Michael Brown. It was from these protests and others like them across the country that the Black Lives Matter movement was born, a movement in which you have become one of the leading and most thoughtful voices. 1 year later, in 2015, you co-founded Campaign Zero, a nonprofit organization devoted to promoting legislative and policy solutions against police violence and mass incarceration. Through your work for this organization, as well as your award-winning podcast, Pod Save the People, you have become one of the country's most powerful and eloquent voices for racial justice and social change. Perhaps the most distinctive aspect of your approach to civil rights activism has been your consistent defense of the importance of hope. Despite the depressing statistics against which you fight, the all too frequent killings of Black men and women, boys and girls, the false imprisonments, and the everyday indignities, you have never lost this crucial, motivating attitude. In your 2018 book, The Other Side of Freedom, you argue that hope is the indispensable precondition for social change. Hope does not assume such change will come about automatically. Rather, it provides the emotional fuel to continue the struggle. As you put it so well in your book, hope is not magic, hope is work. Let's get to work. President Rose, on behalf of the college, I am honored to present DeRay McKesson for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
Thank you, Professor Franco. DeRay McKesson, by virtue of the authority vested in me by our Board of Trustees, I now confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
As chair of the Board of Trustees, I have the honor to present for the degree of Doctor of Science, Jessica Ulrika Mehr.
Dr. Jessica Mehr, NASA astronaut and multidisciplinary scientist, we honor you today for your exemplary leadership in the field of marine biology and physiology and your record-breaking achievements in the NASA space program. Born in Caribou, Maine, to parents of Swedish, Iraqi, and Jewish heritage, you indulged your curiosity for our planet from a young age. To some, Maine in winter might seem like an extreme environment, but your Swedish mother nurtured your love and exploration of the outdoors in all weather. You followed that curiosity throughout your accomplished career with a BA in biology from Brown, a Master's of Science in Space Studies from the International Space University, and a PhD in marine biology from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at UC San Diego. You advanced our understanding of how life exists in extreme environments. Your research on oxygen consumption of diving penguins and elephant seals, high-flying geese, and human physiology has taken you to the NASA Aquarius underwater habitat in the waters off Key Largo, Florida, on diving expeditions in the Antarctic and Belize, and in reduced gravity aircraft. This is all making living through a little cold in the Maine winter seem a lot less extreme. You joined the faculty of Harvard Medical School in 2012 And your research has earned awards and fellowships from the National Science Foundation, the American Physiological Society, the Department of Defense, NASA, Lockheed Martin Space Operations, and numerous others. You used your scientific career to propel yourself on a different trajectory and to an even more extreme environment. In September 2019, as a member of the 21st NASA astronaut class, you served as flight engineer for a crew of Russian and American astronauts when you launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Russia aboard the Soyuz spacecraft. You smashed through the glass ceiling on your flight up to the International Space Station on that mission. There, you and your proclaimed space sister, Christina Cook, stood on the shoulders of generations of women in STEM and the astronaut corps to conduct the first 3 all-female spacewalks in history. You describe that as feeling like just another day at work. But back here on Earth, we were looking up at you with our students, children, friends, family, and colleagues, celebrating all the gender identities, cultures, nationalities, and races that you and the astronauts that came before you brought up into space. You spent 205 days in space, completing 3,280 orbits and a trip of 86.9 million miles. You and your crew contributed to hundreds of experiments in biology, earth science, human research, physical sciences, and technology development. On that trip and throughout your career, you've been signaling to the next generation of STEM students and children of all identities that there are many ways to be a scientist, and that our work is stronger when we celebrate and recognize all the intersecting identities that make us human. President Rose, on behalf of the college, I am honored to present Dr. Jessica Meir for the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa.
Thank you, Professor Levine. Jessica Ulrika Meir, by the authority vested in me by our Board of Trustees, I now confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa. If we could have one more hand for all 4 of our members of the class of 2021. I'd like to turn your attention now to our next piece of music, Lift Every Voice and Sing. The words were written in 1900 by James Weldon Johnson to commemorate the birth of Abraham Lincoln. The music that accompanies the poem that James Weldon Johnson wrote was written by his brother, a noted composer, Rosamund. In the 1920s, the NAACP adopted it, and it became known as the Negro National Anthem, later to also be called the Black National Anthem. I recommend strongly reading the entirety of the poem, understanding its impact and importance to Black Americans, and learning about the lives and the great accomplishments of James and Rosamund Johnson. Dwendalyn Reese, the curator of music and performing arts at the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, told an interviewer last year that Lift Every Voice and Sing is, quote, equal parts honoring the painful past and articulating optimism for the future. And she went on to say, its lyrics remain relevant to where we are as a country in any era. Here is the U.S. Army Field Band.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the let it resound loud as the rolling sea.
Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought
us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
It is now my great pleasure to introduce the senior class president, Wayne Harding. Wayne.
President Rose, members of the college, and guests. Thank you all for the love and support we needed to get to this momentous day. And to the class of 2021, congratulations are in order. It is exciting that we could make it to this moment, and we should all be proud. I'm honored to have the privilege of dedicating the 2021 senior class gift. In a year and a half that brought so much disruption and turmoil to the pursuit of education, I cannot think of a more rewarding and fitting contribution to our collective class legacy than bestowing this scholarship upon an incoming member of the class of 2025. As I look out and see the faces of my peers, I see the products of 467 distinct Bowdoin experiences out of all the endless possibilities that have come before and have yet to come. With this scholarship, someone new will have the opportunity to write the story of yet another unique Bowdoin experience. And that should be cause for excitement. At the beginning of our Bowdoin careers, we are given the building blocks of a Bowdoin education: floor mates and suite mates, the offer of the college and the common good, and a quaint coastal Maine campus where all the magic happens. Oh, and classes, can't forget about the classes. Bowdoin gives its students the same starting ingredients, and that makes it all the more awe-inspiring to see the final products that we all arrive at. Whether it's finding yourself on the cutting edge of experimental research or discovering and exploring a previously unknown passion or talent, students are continuously growing and changing as we navigate the years of our grand Bowdoin adventure, leaving those building blocks far behind in the rearview mirror. As we stare out into the future, we look forward and we see so many different paths, so many different options. But even before figuring out how we are going to conquer these new challenges, we cannot forget where it started. It started with the fateful day you received your Bowdoin acceptance letter, with conversations with family, how to navigate the uncertainty and excitement of the college experience ahead, with figuring out when and how you'll make it to the first day of orientation. It may be easy to forget, but there's plenty to think about at that moment, especially in the year 2021. With this scholarship, I'm grateful that we can at least take the question of whether or not Bowdoin is feasible off the table for one member of the class of 2025. Thus, with this class gift, we hope to be paving the way for someone to get those Bowdoin building blocks, to make those discoveries about themselves and the world, to create yet another new Bowdoin experience. To the recipient of this gift, I may not know you now, but I leave you with this. Go out and chart a Bowdoin journey. I'll be ready and waiting to hear your story. Thank you, and once more, congratulations to the class of 2021.
there for now. You ready? Candidati pro gradu baccalaureale assurgite. Masculus honorandus, hosce uvenes cosensio idoneus primum ad grandum in artibus, nunc tibia ferro uta te instructus, eos ad grandum istum admittum. Placet ne? Pro actore tate mihi commissa, admitto vos ad primum gratum in artibus, et dono et concedo omnia iura, privilegia honoris atque dignitates ad gradum istum pertinentia. In cuius testimonium hasce membranas litteris scriptas accipite.
Julia Abigail Adams. Ruby Chimarushea Ahiwe. Isabel Mencher Alexander. Bianca Caitlin Agende Boyd. Amanda Elena Anderson. Benjamin Andrews. Vanessa Achido Apida. Richard Araujo. Kathleen Atsiri Armenta Vilches. Tomas Ricardo Ararte Raffo. Nathan Benjamin Ashani. Sarah Tripp Austin. Reed Failoon Baker. Ajaya Balasubramanyam. Jacob Leon Baltatus. John Clark Barry. Alex Baselga Garriga. Abigail Marie Bashaw. Avery Clifford Bash. Michael James Batal. Emma Janice Boyer. Jack Beckett Marshall. Douglas Joseph Bencomo. Rachel Berkovich. Elijah Snow Berger. Haley Louise Berkland. Samuel Carpenter Betts. Soren Anders Berkland. Megan Elizabeth Birnbaum. Kayla Umari Blackman. Olivia Zen Blair. Jaya Ronnie Blanchard. Jack James Bliss. Blake Emmanuel Bodie. Andrew Close Bollender. Michael Borecki, Anna Bossari, Sylvia Fitzgerald Bosco, Catherine Hannah Bossy, Reed Horn Brower, Anina Villar Breen, Coleman Eric Brockmeyer, Alexia Brown, Bethan Rebecca Ann Brown, Benjamin Eric James Brownie, Tashi Trueheart Brundage, Maggie Burke, Caroline Ann Burkhart, John Putnam Burnett, Alexander Timothy Burns, Claire Margaret Burns, Gabrielle Renee Burton, Nia Bird, Rowan Roberts Byrne, Noelia Calcaño Silvestre, Elizabeth Van Arsdale Kennel, Brianna Madison Kanan, Madeline Marie Carlson, Aaron Joseph Carlton, Brandon Anthony Cartagena, John Paul Alfonso Castells, Nicholas Everett Cutanio, Brianna Marie Cedroni, Ella Rose Chaffin, Kala Chan, Christine Chapman Sung, Daniel Dahlquist Chapsky, Jeffrey Chen, Ramya Chengalvala, Kyuyong Kevin Chi, Sananda Chintamani, Tenson Chosen, Gillian Blythe Christiansen, Kathleen Callahan Clifford, Kendra Starr Clifton, Margaret Grace Clipson, Dorian Wynne Cohen, Rebecca Miller Cohen, Dana Kearney Conant, Benjamin William Cook, Joseph Graham Copeland, Sarah Avery Corkum, Eugene F. Cote, Michael Millot Covell, Caitlin Mosher Cox, Orlando Kojoy Iskiache, Harrison Hughes Craig, Kira Christie Cruz, Viv Stewart Daniel, Charles Cooper Dart, Catherine Elizabeth Davidson, Emily Riscala Davis, Juquana Simone Davis. Cecilia Rebecca de Havenin. Theodore DeKiak. Tessa DeFranco. Alan Delman. Melissa Grace Demchek. Eliza Kate Denius. Anna K. Dixon. Zoe Alexandra Dietrich. Jaden Anthony Dixon. Vincent Dong. Ryan Michael Beldotti Dunlin. Cassidy Sophia Donahue. John Kevin Donahue III. Michael Paul Donovan. Basmati Dookie. Andrea Rose Dorsa. Liam Martin Dougherty. Lauren Faye Dove. Alicia V. Echevarria. Alicia Grace Edwards. Michael Deshaun Edwards. Nadia Iguchi. Molly Claire Eisner. Rain Sandre Elder. Danil Fabrizio Eraso Paz. Isabel Catherine Essie. Kaylin Christopher Ekoko Eti. Caleb Marcel Irish. Helen Elizabeth Farquhar. Gabrielle Theresa Farrell. Utku Fera. Fallon Field. Natasha Ann Finger. Nathan David Finney. Connor William Fitch. Daniel Crowley Fitzgerald. David Michael Fix Jr. Sarah Flanagan. Reed Alcorn Foster. Catherine Hollis French. Lexi Lee Freund. Michael Matthew Friedland. Lily Anna Rose Fulham. Eleanor Brown Fusco. Megan Galanos. Katie Joy Galetta. Jillian Hemler Charbonneau Galloway. Alejandro Arcadio Garcia. Devin Dewey Garcia. Elizabeth Grace Gardner. Cody Garza. Owen Anthony Gifford. Stephen Mark Gerard. Alec Ross Goffin. Abby Sarah Gonville. Ariel Alejandro Gonzalez. Emily Hannah Adelaide Gonzalez. Jasper Kenneth Gordon. Julia Renee Gottrich. Gerard Robert Gauscher Jr. Sam Grad. Audrey Eve Grandpierre. Faye F. Green. Olivia Morgan Gruel. Jamil Guzman.
Emily M. Ha. Joshua Ryan Hainsley. Juliet Inga Halverson Taylor. Grace Marie Hambleton. Flora Shuchi Hamilton. Perry Carmichael Ham. Kim Hancock. Tia Miora Hanna. Wayne Nathaniel Harding. Ellery Archer Harkness. Leanna Harrington. Ayana Harskowit. Caroline Louise Hastings. Claire Christine Havig. Sabrina Marie Hayden. Ryan Thomas Heath. Marcus J. Helbley. Samuel James Henderson. Sarai Mercedes Hernandez Salguero. Nicolas Hibbard. Frederica Lillian Hibbs. Ethan David Hill. Katya Isabel Hodges. Liam Peter Holgate. Ryan Murphy Hausman. Emily Lauren Hoven. Wesley James Hudson. Max Thrush Hukill. Alexandra L. Hummel. Allison Jamie Hupper. Bradley Robert Ingersoll. AJ Jackson. Cynthia Peyton Jackson. Nora Midgley Jackson. Lester George Jackson IV. Emma Reed Jacobs. Eliza Tate Jevon. Samantha Lynn Jang. Tyrell Dwight Johnson. Audrey Elizabeth Jordan. Johari Ania Joseph. Andrew Joyce. Mitchell Jurassic. Liam Roy Juskovice. Zachary Kaplan. Ingawire Kayahura. Anika Kazlina. Mishal Gazmi. Destiny Ariana Kearney. Hope Elizabeth Keeley. Mohammad Kilani. Andrew Johnyun Kim. Emily Renee King. Jada Shanae King. Calvin Jacob Kinghorn. Samuel Wilson Kingsbury. Catherine Grace Kaiser. Elliot Conzel. Aretha Ruth Ekwa Kumzen. Mary Apollonia Kretschmer. Umar Kunjo. Sarisha Kurup. Kunika Koi. Pauline Balway Kwok. Emma Ariel Kizivat. Alina Lamb. Emily Y. Lamb. Christian James Lamontagne. Jonathan Scott Lander, Jr. John Michael Lane. William James Larson. Mary Caroline Larita. Annie Healy Lawler. Nicholas John Leahy. Mindy Leader. Aaron Joseph Lee. Brandon Songbin Lee. Connor Martin Lee. Esther Minhee Lee. Terry Lee. Victor Sunghwan Lee. Gannon Frederick Leach. Axel Hans Gustav Levin. Sophie Eliza Lewis. Conrad Jukong Lee. Kevin Lee. Sabrina Sheehan Lin. Elise O'Shea Lindberg. Noah Jerome Lipnick. Ajani Ethan Llewellyn. Aiden Simon Lowton. Anna Sara Lozada Smith. Mark William Lucy. Irene Friedman Lunt. Kate Zemin Lusignan. Hallowell Posey Claire Line. Patrick Joseph Aloysius Linet. Juan Gustavo Campos Magalhães. Anne Lisa Maher. Tristan James Manuel. Julia DeSilos Marangoni. Matthew David Marcantano. Cecilia Bounskar Markman. Cameron James Markowski. Evan Pappas Marrow. Rebecca Lindsay Marrow. Griffin Scott Marshall. Sydney Denise Martin. William Thomas Martin. Keith Paul Matty Jr. Chanel Gail Matthews. Caroline Christine Maxwell. Daniel Rohan Mayer. Michael Christopher McAlarney. Layla Simone McCain. James Nicholas McCarthy. Matthew Kenneth McCarthy. Austin Bradford McCrum. Catherine Colleen McGinnis. Aidan Terrence McGinty. Nina Neri McKay. Brittany Ann McKinley. Devin Vega McKinney. Maxwell James McFerrin. Lily Andra McVetti. Ari Merberg. Arjun Sujay Mehta. Lorenzo Fairweather Meggs. Mariela Rosalie Mendoza. Anna Hunt Messenger. Timothy John Miklas. Eleanor Reggie Mildenstein. Aaron Philip Miller. Catherine Joan Miller. Lucas Montserrat. David Anthony Monty. Rutigan Munrinta. Andrew Thomas Moore. Brianna Nicole Moore. Molly Margaret Moore. Andrew James Mulholland. Giovanna Mungia. Ida Erme Mirantolu. Keenan Patrick Murray. Brendan James Murtha.
Matthew Tyler Nakamoto. Adriana Nazarko. Aaron Harvey Duke Nguyen. Rosemary Mintham Nguyen. Catherine Greenwell Nunley. Nirhan Nuryadin. Josiah Oakley. Peter Dean O'Connell. Delaney Cummings O'Dowd. Favor Isoma Ofoku. Francis McLean O'Keefe. Hikma Okoya. Chiamaka Doris Okoye. Gregory Olson. Bedar Omar. Brendan Christopher O'Neill. Shona Isabel Ortiz. Safia Ancha Osei. Abigail Osmansky. Catherine Kruger Paddy. Srini Pandayan. Robert Samuel Paquette. Esra Unhe Park. Shania Nitesh Patel. Olivia S. Pina. Maria Ferenze Perez Mendoza. Jed Bradley Perla. Grace Abbott Pettingill. Kian Duk Pham. Tam Phan. Samantha Pollack. Royal Christophe Privet. Kiani Stephen Proverbs. Claudette Proctor. Nicholas James Purchase. Laura Gillian Hurd Rayleigh. Daniel John Ralston. Elliot Avery Ramirez. Hannah Lovejoy Randazzo. Anna Jinjun Rayner. Lior Yale Razfali. Sydney Livingston Reaper. Claire Irene Rabusin. Chloe Renfro. Audrey Roberta Lamb Ruman. Chloe B. Richards. Milo Richards. Samuel Weston Blanchard Richardson. Christopher McFarlane Ritter. Kendall Anthony Rogers. Samuel Jerry Rosario. Madeline Nicole Rohanna. Samuel Marshall Roussel. Mitchell Henry Roy. Elliot Rozovsky. Alexandra Wood Rubenstein. Lowell Thomas Prince Ruck. Xavier Robert Rucker. Everett James Rezowski. Belinda Karine St. Louis. William Tucker St. Amour. Stephanie St. Germain. Sophia Isadora Harley Salzer. Anne Choi Sarazin. Henry Thomas Savage. Zachary Ross Charlo. Henry Edson Schlick. Samantha Faith Schwimmer Trop. Perry Jackson Salert. Anam Shah. Harry Isaac Sherman.
Norel Jordan Sherman, Emma Walton Sherrill, Gavin Schilling, Renita Shivnot, Ruby Maya Siltonen, Lindbergh George Similis, Benjamin M. Simmons, Jared Warner Skanesny, Kelsey Harrison Slack, Beckett Wellington Sergeant Slayton, Ariana Michelle Smith, Kayla Nicole Snyder, James Robert Spear, Jessica Eileen Spate, Cameron Anthony Speller, Kyle Oscar St. Dennis, Nick Suarez Cardenas, Taryn Mitchell Son, Wesley Harrison Swank, David Gregory Swart, Chloe Isabel Swedberg, Elizabeth V. Sweeney, Dahlia Ann Tabachnik, Tokyo Takai, Tiger Tang, Isabella Ethel Tappan, Juliana C. Taub, Ryan Comfort Tellingater, Bethany Jordan Thatch, Madison Page Teese, Archer Reese Thomas, Jill Tien, Ryan Tillman, Nicole Danielle Chinaji, Samuel James Topham, Devin Torres, Moira Elizabeth Train, Claire Margaret Traum, Roger Treo, Ricky Hin Lun Sang, Holden McCord Turner, Catherine Isabel Tufson, Gabrielle Elizabeth Unipan, Brooke Caroline Vahos, Colin Michael Vanderveen, Gabrielle Fondendris, Brian Vargas, Nicholas Robert Vassiliou, Manuela Simone Velasquez, Eva Khan Verzoni, Maya Lee Vu, Sarah Jo Vambako, Stuart Wall, Sophia Louise Walton, Horace Ha Song Wang, Justin Wang, Andrew M. Ward, Elizabeth Langland Wargo, Ploy Watanawanichkung, Isabella Violetta Way, Elward Wera, Mark Harrison West, Jamaica Sunray White, Brianna Delmar White Ortiz, Bryn Marie Wickland, Spencer Takeshi Wilkins, Annika Florence Williams, Ashley Elizabeth Williams, Marcus Barrington Williams. Victoria Grace Williamson, Zachariah Bo Wilson, Justin Ryan Winchell, Annabelle Madeline Winterberg, Alexander Robert John Withers, Cameron Matthew Withers, Claire Francis Wolfe, Niels Alexander Wright, Brooke Hannah Rubel, Abigail Mercy Wu, Tsing Kun Wu, Tialin Xie, Hanbo Stephen Shu, Yuto Yagi, Andrew Jihoon Yang, Jae Yoon, Tristan Robert Young, Alexander Ross Zaffon, Austin Jarrett Zachow, Benjamin Alexander Zeveos, Jason Zhang, Larry Zhao, David Zhou, and Hannah Zuckley.
It's all right. We're not waiting for anything. It's okay. Usually this is where I would say concedite, but everyone's already seated. I would like to ask our family, friends, and guests to give a round of applause for the newest Bowdoin graduates. So a couple of more things before I turn the podium over to Professor Mark Whetley. As a reminder, I invite all of our students and families, guests, to pick up your lunch in the gigantic tent behind Farley Fieldhouse. I do want to, again, thank our family, friends. I want to thank the faculty and the staff and offer my congratulations again to our students who have been just unbelievable through an historic and incredibly difficult year. And I could not be prouder of you, and I look forward to seeing all of you in much more normal circumstances in the years ahead. Our alma mater, Raise Songs to Bowdoin, will be played this year in a recording made by members of the Bowdoin College Chamber Choir. And our audience, I ask you if you are able to please stand.
Will guests please remain at their seats until the recessional march has passed? The 216th commencement of Bowdoin College is now concluded.